What if you literally had all the money in the world? The question, when it first bubbled up in your mind, was a simple, idle curiosity. A thought experiment born from a
The
slow afternoon,
numbers.
and a spreadsheet that just wasn't cooperating. You were sitting there, staring at a list of global assets when the absurdity of the numbers hit you. The total sum of all currency, all gold, all financial instruments, what if it all belonged to one person? You. It started with a simple email, a curious inquiry to a friend at an international bank, a throwaway line about a hypothetical global asset transfer. He laughed, of course, but his response sent a shiver down your spine. The sheer scale of it would be a mathematical impossibility, a global paradox. You would become the world's first and last true sovereign. The idea wouldn't leave you alone. You started to dig, not just into the numbers, but into the very fabric of how money works. You learned that all the money in the world isn't a single pile of cash. It's a vast interconnected web of value. Cash, bank deposits, stocks, bonds, cryptocurrencies. It's a collective hallucination, a shared belief that a piece of paper or a number on a screen has value. To possess it all would mean taking ownership of this collective belief. The first step was quiet, almost unnoticed. You began with a series of automated transactions, a complex cascade of digital transfers that, on paper, looked like a series of market corrections. You didn't steal the money, you simply rerouted it. One by one, bank accounts across the globe zeroed out. The numbers didn't vanish, they just thus moved. The world's wealth wasn't gone, it was consolidated. Your bank account, a simple digital ledger that once held a modest sum, began to grow at an impossible rate. The initial chaos was contained. The world's financial systems designed to handle immense transfers initially interpreted the shifts as a series of massive, unprecedented market events. Analysts scrambled. Central banks held emergency meetings, and the news cycled through every possible explanation. A coordinated hack, a glitch in the global financial network, an act of economic warfare. They were looking for an enemy, a cause, a reason. They never considered that the cause was a single person, sitting in a quiet apartment watching the numbers tick up. The real trouble started when people tried to spend money. A person in Tokyo went to buy a coffee, and their card was declined. A family in London tried to pay for groceries, and their bank account read, insufficient funds. It wasn't just a few people. It was everyone, everywhere. ATMs stopped working. Credit cards became useless plastic. The intricate dance of commerce, which relies on the constant, fluid movement of money, had come to a grinding halt. You watched the world descend into confusion. At first it was frustrating, a minor inconvenience. Then it became a crisis. Supermarket shelves went empty as no one could pay for goods. Factories shut down because they couldn't pay their workers or suppliers. The global economy, a delicate machine fueled by currency, seized up entirely. The very concept of a salary or a price became meaningless. Bartering returned with a vengeance, but it was a clumsy, inefficient system. A skilled doctor might have to trade a consultation for a bushel of apples. A farmer might have to trade his harvest for a leaky roof repair. The global order was fracturing. You tried to reverse it. You had the money, so you could give it back, right? You attempted to distribute the wealth back to its original owners, to simply reset the numbers. But the system had a mind of its own. It couldn't process the reversal. A single account, now impossibly vast, could not be broken back down into a billion smaller ones. The very act of concentration had fundamentally changed the nature of money. This wasn't what you wanted. Your thought experiment had spiraled into a global catastrophe. You were the king of a crumbling empire, a silent sovereign ruling over a world where your power was a curse. You had all the money, but money itself had become a worthless concept. It was just a number in a ledger, a ghost in the machine. You could, in theory, buy anything. A private jet? You could pay the manufacturers a tropical island. You could buy the entire nation that owned it. But what would they do with your payment? The money you offered had no value to them. The workers couldn't buy food with it. The companies couldn't pay their bills with it. Your wealth, once the ultimate symbol of power, was now the ultimate symbol of futility. The world had found a new way of operating, one that relied on trust, on favors, on skill. The old financial system was dead. You, the owner of all its value, were a relic, a living museum of a bygone era. You had all the money and it meant nothing. It was a prison of your own making, a gilded cage built of numbers that nobody else could see. Your empire was not one of power and influence, but one of silent cosmic irony. You had taken the game and won it so completely that the game itself had ceased to exist.